There are no shortcuts to trust, frankly. It's one conversation by conversation, day over day. And so we're putting in the work and we're trying to show our fans and our collaborators and our community that we're in it for the long haul, and that we really appreciate and value that they've given us a second chance to build a brand that they can be really proud of.
Trust is never a given, right, Asli? It's earned. Especially in today's day and age when everything is constantly under the microscope of social media scrutiny, building a brand might be harder than ever before. People are criticizing names, logos, marketing campaigns, you name it. It takes more than just this clever name and a logo to not only catch someone's attention, but more importantly, earn their respect and trust. We're going through that right now as we continue to grow and evolve finance of football. We have a great name, we have a niche, but if we don't present information and opinions based on fact and data, we're going to lack credibility and just become another podcast spewing hot takes into the void. And we don't need that. So it's why we spent the last decade plus, each of us, building up our credibility and our networks that we're now leveraging to tell the stories around the business of the beautiful game. So while our community has been very supportive of this new venture, let's just say that some recently launched brands haven't been as lucky. The artist formerly known as BOS Nation FC learned this the hard way. The NWSL expansion franchise announced in October 2024 faced backlash not only for its name, an anagram of Bostonian, but its launch campaign titled Too Many Balls that many deemed offensive.
I mean, and I do understand as a woman, perhaps why female fans didn't really like the Too Many Balls campaign. And while the club now known as Boston Legacy FC doesn't take the field until 2026, executives, marketers, and ticket sales reps have less than a year to establish trust in the sector, in the industry. The first step in creating a new identity, as you know, I think to atone for initial missteps was changing the name, which the club did in March. In early June, they released its new logo and visual identity. And the initial response has been certainly more welcoming than the previous one. And I mean, you and I, we saw it's beautiful, really I think they really outdid themselves, and they haven't stopped there, which is great. Boston Legacy signed some really amazing players. Aini Karish is its first player, while recently they added Traoré from Mali to its budding, roster. And while the renovations to White Stadium continues with the expectation of welcoming the club in 2027 after a year of play at Gillette Stadium, Boston Legacy also announced a $27 million, 24-acre training facility in Brockton, Massachusetts. We're talking state-of-the-art fields, youth programs, and a community focused on embracing by the city's leadership, which is very important when you're building a brand in a community, which is very important to support that brand. And then as we were thinking, what else can happen? Most recently, they announced a new investor. Indiana Fever star and 2023 WNBA Rookie of the Year, Aliyah Boston. She said it best herself, Boston rapping, Boston just felt right. And she joined the star-studded ownership group that includes already Olympic gold medalist Ali Rallisman, Hollywood powerhouse Elizabeth Banks, and Celtics GM Brad Stevens and his wife Tracy. And these are amazing people all rallying behind the club with some big-time ambitions. And at the time when women's sports are booming, as you know, Boston Legacy's latest moves are yet another reminder that they are here to make a mark. And this is Asli Pelit.
And I'm Michael LoRé. Welcome to Finance of Football. Joining us to discuss all things Boston Legacy is Chief Revenue Officer Amina Bulman.
Good morning. How are you both?
Thank you for joining us.
I realize this is actually my first time ever doing a podcast. I feel like I've done so much media, but first time ever on a podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, congratulations on the logo launch.
Thank you.
How has the initial response been?
Overwhelmingly positive. I've obviously been looking at this crest for a couple of weeks at this point, and I love it. So I knew our fans would too. I think folks are so excited about the narrative behind this one, and they really get how it stands for both Boston and sort of women's sports in the NWSL. And so I've been thrilled with the reception.
That's great news.
Yeah, love it. Love it. We know it's obviously been a tough road for the club, and we obviously don't want to beat a dead horse or harp on things of the past. But, just how do you go about establishing trust with fans, knowing that there was that initial rollout? There were some concerns, and now it's like, hey guys, actually, that's not us anymore. We're Boston Legacy. We have this new logo. So just how do you go about establishing trust, not only with fans, but maybe with sponsors and just in the market as well?
There are no shortcuts to trust, frankly. It's one conversation by conversation, day over day. And so we're putting in the work, and we're trying to show our fans and our collaborators and our community that we're in it for the long haul, and that we really appreciate and value that they've given us a second chance to build a brand that they can be really proud of. And I think folks sense when you're authentic about that, and they are still working with us, walking with us as we build this organization.
I think it's all about the team first, and then, when the stadium is ready, then it'll be ready.
Of course, you want things to go as best they can immediately, but knowing that everyone's working as hard as they can behind the scenes is probably enough for everybody.
I feel like you love hard jobs because before you joined this project, this club, you were Chief Brand and Strategy Officer at the Washington Commanders, which had their own rebranding process. What did you learn and leverage from that experience when assisting with the rebranding of Boston Legacy? Because I feel like one thing is launching a name, it doesn't work out, but there's no club, there's no community. Let's say there's not a lot at stake, perhaps. Or maybe there is. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking, without really having the proper amount of information. But I always feel like if there's an established club and you're changing their name, their branding, I'm sure there will be even more resistance. So your job must have been perhaps harder back then.
I think some things were easier and some things were harder. To your point, the Redskins brand had been around for 90 years. People remember going to games with their grandparents. And so there was all this brand equity built up in the existing organization. And so it was really deeply emotional for people to go through that rebrand. I think one of the things that made rebranding this organization easier was sort of that lack of history. But also, I think the people had such deeply emotional responses to the first brand launch that, to Michael's point, we really had to start with the basics and rebuild trust from day one. And when you don't have a long track record, there just isn't that time to build trust, right? You don't have that long history to fall back on, those many years of memories that fans still hold dear. And so for us, it was really about, let's throw everything out the window and start from scratch and really build this hand in glove with our fans. One thing that I very much learned and brought with me from the Commanders to this rebrand was the importance of bringing fans into the process. And so for both rebrands, we spent a lot of time doing focus groups, stakeholder interviews, quantitative, qualitative research, so that we really felt like the voice of our fans was coming through and really guiding the rebrand.
That's what I was going to ask you. How is that, what was that process like? How many people responded? Or also, is there already a built-in Boston Legacy fan group? They're just active in sharing their opinions and their thoughts and their wants with you?
Yes. So we have both a set of brand advisors who are accomplished folks in our community, in the sports world, especially in the women's sports world, and in the sort of marketing and brand world as well. And so they have been instrumental throughout in helping us guide the voice of the brand and the different elements that are coming to life. We also have a fantastic supporters group who are both our biggest fans of the club and also our biggest critics. And I think that's incredible, right? If you really love something, the best thing you can do is try and make it better. And our supporters group does that. I have a ton of gratitude for those fans who really have held us accountable the whole time and have also said, we're in it with you to build the next evolution of this brand.
I want to really ask you about the swan. I love swans. I grew up in Istanbul. We're also very much known for having swans in our lakes. And can you tell us a little bit about the how that come out? How many people voted for it? What is the origin story? We're very curious about that.
So the swan is really a symbol of Boston. We have the swan boats in our public garden. There are swans who live in Franklin Park, which is where our stadium will be located. And so it's obviously a nod to the city, but the swan itself as an icon, I think, is deeply connected to the values that make women's sports great. Swans are known for being fierce, aggressive, relentlessly loyal. And those are all the values that we think, make up excellent athletes, but also, I mean, I'm a Bostonian. Those are traits of Bostonians. We are fierce, relentless, loyal to the core. And so I think it's really a fitting symbol for what this club will be and what it already is. We built a lot of extra details in that I hope speak to the thoughtfulness and intentionality that we're bringing to this brand. So, for example, the Swan has 8 wings. There were 8 initial teams in the NWSL. The Boston Breakers were one of them. And so as we think about how we honor the legacy of the women's teams that came before us, that's incorporated into our crest. And the very sharp lines of the Swan's wings reference the Zakim Bridge, which is an iconic Boston landmark. And so, yes, it's a swan on its face, but it also has all of these little details that tie it into a bigger picture.
When I remember, like, for me, the swans are like, when they're born, they're not like the prettiest birds, but the
ugly duckling. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. What? Oh my gosh. I'm going to bring you onto my brand team.
I mean, sometimes ready for, service. Anytime you need, ideas, here we are.
I love it.
Oh my God, that's too great. And you guys obviously work with, one of the best in the industry and Matthew Wolf, who I used to work with at New York City Football Club. And I just love, like you said, just all the little marks and subtle symbols that are in the logo that surface value. You're like, okay, it's a swan, but beneath that, there's so much that has so much value. And I know he's done that with other clubs, whether it's LAFC or Union Omaha or things like that. So obviously love to see that he's part of the project and the design with you guys here.
I have to give a shout out to Matt because he was so fantastic throughout this project. Obviously, he knows this space better than anyone else, but he really worked with us to help bring our vision to life while also sort of mirroring the elements of the NWSL that would make this crest sort of fit in with the rest of the cohort. And so huge shout out to Matt Wolf. He was fantastic.
You mentioned the renovations, and building White Stadium in Franklin Park. Talk about maybe some of the updates on the renovations and building more of that brand in your own home as opposed to somebody else's home. Like I said, I used to work at New York City Football Club. They've been playing at baseball stadiums for the last decade. They're finally building their own home. So how does that affect things from ticket sales to brand awareness? And again, I keep going back to that fan loyalty and trust. So, maybe having a temporary home, how does that play into all of this?
2026 for us is about introducing our fans to the sport and to the club. And then 2027 will be the season of welcoming them home to White Stadium. We're very excited to be launching at Gillette. I mean, it's the home of the Men's World Cup next year. It's a world-class venue. It's the stadium that people know when they think about New England. So in terms of our goals in year one, which need to be about introducing our club and our brand to fans, having Gillette as a partner is incredible. I am also very glad that we are going to be building our own stadium. Women's sports deserve their own venues, and this is going to be a professional grade, all electric stadium, purpose built for women's sports. And it's just time that professional female athletes are getting to play in facilities that are meant for them. And it's time that fans of women's sports get to experience what it's like to be in a stadium that's purpose built for the experience that they're engaging in. Part of what drew me to this role and to this organization was the vision for White Stadium, and not only getting to open up a new stadium, but the partnership that the club has with Boston Public Schools. So we're jointly renovating the stadium with BPS, and we will use it on game days. We'll have a training facility elsewhere. And when we're not playing in it, Boston Public School students will get to use it. And I think that's an incredible model for how clubs and cities could work together. I mean, I come from the NFL where we build these massive stadiums that get used 8 days a year and then they just sit empty otherwise. And when I think about the signal that we're sending to the students of Boston around what they deserve, the investment in their future, creating a chance for them to get to play in a world-class performance facility is just deeply in line with the values of this organization and how we want to show up in the community, and having our community work really be threaded into the core operations of how we're building this club. And so that's something that I'm very much looking forward to. And, we're a startup. Things, we'll have to pivot. Things are changing on the fly, and we're sort of doing the best we can moving on this timeline.
I think the way you call it a startup is so important because I think and when we look at entire women's soccer, we have to look at it from the investor's perspective and from the fan perspective. It's a new era. It's a new sector. Everything is new. So they are all startups. But mostly for your case, like you're building something from scratch. And talking about stadiums is the daughter of an architect. I have been working on a big story for The Athletic about creating purpose-built spaces for women. When you mention like NFL stadiums being not used more than 8 days a week, and then maybe like concerts where they make so much money clearly, but creating a space for the community, I don't think was ever thought the way women's sports teams are thinking about it on the men's side. They took all this money to build them back in the day. It was public funded stadium projects. Nobody ever said anything about like, oh, why are we spending all this money and giving it to billionaires to make more money? But then now women's stadiums are being built. And then, you want it to be like a public, private partnership. And then suddenly everybody stands up and maybe reacts to it as like, oh, why we're doing this. And I feel like that really actually hurts me as a woman to see that's like that kind of reaction is even exists in today's world when women's teams are always trying to make something more for the community and more inclusive, more available for a bigger part of the population than some of these sports teams. But that's my vent for the day. So I'm sorry if this is too much.
No, yeah, I love that you said it so I don't have to. No, I think, it's hard to build something new with a lot of different stakeholders when you're trying to incorporate many different perspectives, especially when you're building something, when you're building a stadium, when you're building a venue. But I'm really hopeful that this model for what we're doing in Boston becomes the standard for how new infrastructure is developed, because the various needs that this venue will meet, and not only the stadium, but we're also going to have a space called the Grove right next to it, which will be a 365-day outdoor venue for, community events, farmers markets, movie nights, really a community gathering space. As you said, women's sports are thinking about this differently. And what a gift that is to be able to showcase a different model for how a sports team can really be a civic and community asset. And I think that's how this team is thinking about its role, is really, we are the steward of our fans and of our community. And because of that, it changes how we engage with them and how we build our core operating model. It has to be really threaded in with the community, as opposed to here's the club and here's the foundation, and they're really two separate entities.
And that's the only way to create a club versus a team.
Yes.
Because clubs are institutions where people identify with, they spend their childhood playing around that clubhouse. That's how I grow up. And I think for me, my club means everything because I have so many core memories built in that space, whether or not, I played a professional sport or a junior sport or not, which probably impacted too. But all the kids that didn't do that, but were still part of that club, remembers that. And that's part of their identity. And I really hope you guys can do that in Boston, because I think it will mean so much, especially to little girls who really need that kind of community, I think, in their lives. I don't know. I think Michael is about to explode with enough of this, woman chat, but let's get back to business chat.
No, listen, I love it. I just don't want to cut anybody off here, but no, I think the biggest thing, and, echoing what you both have said, it's about creating community and about, having open arms to everyone. And it's like, you belong here. We are as much part of this community and fabric as you are. And that's how we want to reflect the club. And Amina, I wanted to ask too, Boston is a very sports crazed market. Asli and I are in New York. We understand that, you launch a new team in New York, good luck against the Knicks, the Yankees, the Rangers, you name it. So Boston is the same, all of the professional established sports teams there. So how do you go about marketing this club to fans, to endemic soccer fans, to non-endemic soccer fans, knowing that there are a ton of other options, in and around the city?
As you said, Boston is a sports crazy town. And I think there are pros and cons to that when it comes to launching a new club. Fans are ready to be sports fans. They sort of know what it looks like to be a part of a community that is sports obsessed, and it's a crowded market. Both things are true. And so I think it's a couple different things that we're trying to do. One is genuinely build differently, and build in a community first way. And, with my revenue hat on, that's also how you create this sort of stickiness where people keep coming back game after game, year after year, generation after generation. We want to build something that really lasts. We are creating an experience for female athletes that I think the Boston community understands and is receptive to. We have to be an athlete first club. And if we want to be the preeminent women's sports team in Boston, which there is very much an appetite for, we have to invest in the athlete experience as well as the fan experience. And so over the next couple of weeks, you'll hear us start to talk more around the caliber of talent we're bringing on to support our athletes, the caliber of facilities that we're building. And I think Boston sports fans in particular get that. They get that to create a world-class club, you have to invest in athletes.
And to that point, how are you bringing these super athletes? What are like some of the strategies now that the league has changed a lot? There's not a draft anymore. And between NWSL and the world, European leagues, also especially WSL in England, with higher salary opportunities and options of the legacy club names being over there, I'm sure it isn't the easiest thing to bring talent to a club that you're building.
Completely. I mean, I give a ton of credit to our GM, Dome, who has just been fantastic. He's been working behind the scenes to build out the staff and then also sort of get ready to sign our first players. And I think one of the things that I love about him is that he has worked all over the world. He's seen what excellent looks like. And so he's bringing best practices from those clubs while also thinking about how we do something different in Boston. The NWSL is still the preeminent women's soccer product in the world. And so I think if you are an athlete who wants to be at the top of their game, you want to play with the best, you're coming to America to play soccer. And that's part of the reason that I was attracted to this job. It's just, I think the actual quality of play is so high and fans respond to that. They see how excellent just the athleticism is of these women. And it's something you want to keep coming back to.
You never know who's going to win. And I mean, as you know, I cover women's soccer for The Athletic. And one of the things that surprises me every week, you never know who's going to be the one who takes home those 3 points. I think one more from me, without the on the pitch success and or prominent ticket sales to show, how are you signing sponsors for this club now?
Right now, I'm working on bringing on corporate partners who really share our vision for what this club can be. The partners who we're working with right now, and we'll hopefully announce a couple in the coming months, are folks who say, I see where you're going and I want to be a part of this and I want to build it with you. And for the right partner, that chance to co-create a vision and to sort of build our brands together is really exciting. There are definitely brands who are going to say, I'm going to wait and see. I want this to get a little bit more established. This is a startup. But the folks who are joining us right now as our founding partners are really going to get to shape the future of this club together. And I think for, a dynamic, innovative, forward-looking brand, this is a real business opportunity that they see to get in at the ground level and to build with us together. And so when we find those brands, there's just a mutual vision that's really exciting.
I love that. Amina, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to everything you guys are building up there and obviously seeing you guys take the pitch in T-minus 1 year, right? We're very excited.
Thank you so much for coming in. Both of us huge kit fans. We can't wait to see your kits and have those Swan kits in our collection. So I hope you release them early enough so we can go and buy
Fingers
some.
crossed. I can't wait. All right. Well, thank you both. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
Hey guys. Hey.
What's up?